I think that Susan S. Sarah's mother didn't feel that the marriage would change things for her, but it's a curious thing. She was very wary. A royal reporter has claimed that even Sarah Ferguson's own family doubted her motives when she married Prince Andrew. Behind the glittering 1986 royal wedding, whispers spread that some relatives quietly questioned whether Fergie was truly in love or whether she was chasing the crown, the privilege, and the lifestyle that came with it. And it wasn't just her family. Inside the palace walls, courtiers and senior aides were reportedly uneasy. They feared that Sarah's impulsive nature, her vibrant personality, and her colorful social life might one day lead to scandal. And sadly, history would prove them right. Tonight, we uncover the story behind those doubts, what her family really thought, what the palace feared, and how Sarah Ferguson's royal fairy tale unraveled into one of the most complicated relationships in modern royal history. Knew it was a scandal, not once it broke. Michael, but don't try and trick me now because I'm not going to play this game. Delete that bit, John. Can you delete it, please? That bit, because I don't want to go down this. Duchess, I'm asking very fair questions of you. No, I just a tabloid. John is Sarah's Australian agent. A recent royal report reignited a decades-old question. Was Sarah Ferguson's marriage to Prince Andrew built on love or calculation? According to insiders quoted by royal biographer Andrew Lowy, members of the Ferguson family themselves wondered whether Sarah was drawn to Andrew for who he was or for what he represented. One family acquaintance described her as a girl who always knew which circles to move in. Another claimed her father, Major Ronald Ferguson, felt both proud and anxious. Proud that his daughter had captured a prince, but uneasy about the spotlight it would bring. For Buckingham Palace, the match was both convenient and concerning. Sarah was British, well-bred, and known to the family. This is why one of the reasons the Queen loved you so much and you were so special to her. What did she mean to you? Oh, you know, she just, I think I was just myself with her. She had a warm sense of humor that instantly endeared her to the Queen and Prince Philip, but she also had a past filled with lively parties, close male friendships, and an independent streak that worried some of the Queen's advisors. One former courtier is said to have commented, "She was great fun, but not the safest choice for a royal bride." Sarah Margaret Ferguson was born in 1959, into what could be described as the solid middle tier of Britain's upper class. Respectable, connected, but not truly wealthy. Her father, Major Ronald Ferguson, was a polo manager for Prince Philip and later for Prince Charles. That job alone kept the Fergusons within the royal orbit. Her mother Susan remarried and moved to Argentina, leaving Sarah to grow up largely between boarding school and her father's estate. Is the Duchess of York Epstein's scandal about to hit her in the pocket? Well, maybe. Let me explain why. The charities linked to Sarah Ferguson on Monday certainly moved quickly to distance themselves from her. By her early 20s, Sarah had established herself as a popular figure on the London social scene. Friends described her as cheerful, fearless, and a little wild. She worked modest jobs at a publishing firm and later at an art gallery, but her ambition was quietly evident. She wanted excitement, status, and a life beyond the ordinary. When she and Andrew reconnected in 1985, the timing was perfect. The prince was 25, handsome, and one of Britain's most eligible bachelors. He had just returned from naval service and was under mounting pressure from the Queen to settle down. The two had known each other as children, but when they met again at Royal Ascot, sparks flew instantly. Sarah Ferguson and that contribution to her debts by the deceased pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, as reported in the Mail, what we discover his first. Within a year, they were engaged. But even then, people whispered that the relationship had been accelerated, that Fergie knew how to charm her way into royal favor. She made the Queen laugh, bonded with Prince Philip, and won the public's heart with her approachable personality. Behind closed doors, however, a few family members questioned whether she was falling in love with Andrew or with the institution he represented. On the 23rd of July 1986, millions watched as Sarah Ferguson walked down the aisle of Westminster Abbey in a 17-feet ivory train, sparkling tiara, and radiant smile. It was the last great royal wedding of the 1980s, and Britain was captivated. Newspapers hailed her as the people's Duchess, a breath of fresh air compared to the increasingly tense atmosphere surrounding Charles and Diana. And I was allowed to be myself with her, which is such a joy. And we loved going for a walk with the doggies and the corgis, and she just was. She loved the smell of Daphne plant right now, or magnolia, or the daffodils. But even in the early days, cracks were showing. Sarah's exuberance, what the press once adored, began to irritate some inside the palace. She was too loud, too informal, too candid. She laughed too freely, hugged too often, and gave interviews that made royal aides weep. Worse, the marriage itself was strained almost immediately. Andrew's naval duties took him away for months at a time. In one of her later interviews, Sarah admitted that, in the first 5 years of marriage, they spent only 40 days together each year. Loneliness set in, and the tabloids pounced. Stories of lavish spending, holiday trips, and whispered affairs began to circulate. Palace staff who had once doubted her now felt vindicated. She loves the attention, one aide reportedly said. She was never going to fit into that mold. If you are innocent, would you pay £12 million to someone that is accusing you of awful, awful things? I wouldn't. By the late 1980s, royal officials were worried. Sarah's image, once buoyant, was becoming a liability. Her playful nature often turned into public spectacle. There were stories of excessive shopping trips, boisterous parties, and controversial friendships. The courtiers' fears from 1986 were becoming reality. The Duke of Edinburgh reportedly grew impatient with her antics. The Queen, while fond of her personally, struggled to defend her daughter-in-law from mounting tabloid criticism. Privately, some inside the palace called her unmanageable. They felt her appetite for publicity and luxury reflected poorly on the monarchy, especially as the British public was tightening its belt in the early 1990s recession. And while the royal household had initially dismissed talk of motives, it now faced a deeper question. Had they underestimated her? Had the fun Duchess turned out to be a royal risk? This is everything you've written in your book, though. Yes, I know. But it's releasing your book and you've agreed to book. The book has already been released. And the thing is, I'm not going to go down to this point. I'm going to answer your questions. But that's done. It's finished. I've answered it. Thank you very much. Then came 1992. The year that shattered the monarchy's calm facade. In August, while still legally married to Andrew, Sarah was photographed on holiday in France with her American financial advisor, John Bryan. The infamous toe-sucking photos became one of the biggest royal scandals of the decade. The palace was humiliated. Prince Philip was furious. Within days, Fergie was effectively exiled from royal life. Too many inside the family. This was confirmation of everything they had feared and everything her relatives had supposedly worried about years earlier. She wanted glamour and adventure, said one former royal correspondent, and she got it, but at a terrible cost. Even after her separation, Sarah continued to struggle financially. Her spending habits, investments, and business ventures often made headlines. Critics said she courted publicity to stay relevant, while supporters argued she was simply trying to survive outside the royal bubble. But the scandals didn't stop there. In 2010, a hidden camera sting captured Sarah offering access to Prince Andrew in exchange for £500,000. The footage sent shockwaves through Britain. In the video, she appeared emotional and under the influence, but the damage was done. She apologized publicly, calling it a terrible lapse in judgment. Years later, her name surfaced again in connection with Andrew's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Sarah admitted she had accepted financial assistance from Epstein in 2010 to help clear debts, something she later described as a gigantic mistake. Two royal watchers. These incidents echoed the same pattern: money troubles, impulsive choices, and disastrous headlines. The palace had once worried about her past. Now her present was every bit as troubling. And for those who'd once doubted her motives, these scandals seemed to confirm that Sarah Ferguson had never truly escaped her appetite for risk and reward. But that isn't the full story. Sarah Ferguson has spent years defending herself from accusations that she married for status or money. In numerous interviews, she's insisted that her marriage to Andrew was based entirely on love. In 2021, she told Town and Country, "I married my man who happened to be a prince. I married him because I loved him." And despite their 1996 divorce, Sarah and Andrew have remained remarkably close. They still live together at the Royal Lodge in Windsor, co-parent their daughters, and appear side by side at family events. Their friendship and ongoing cohabitation has led many to believe that their love, however unconventional, has endured. Her defenders argue that Sarah's mistakes were never malicious. They were impulsive, naive, sometimes foolish, but human. She was a young woman thrust into a gilded cage, unprepared for the pressure, and punished far more harshly than others who have stumbled within the same palace walls. 4 decades later, those early family doubts linger like ghosts. Was she the wrong woman at the wrong time, or simply ahead of her time? The royal household has slowly softened toward her. She's been welcomed at certain family gatherings and seen as a doting grandmother, a published author, and to some, a figure of resilience. But the stigma never fully left. In every profile, every newspaper feature, the question resurfaced: did Sarah Ferguson marry Prince Andrew for love or for ambition? Perhaps both are true. Love and ambition are rarely separate, especially within royal walls where marriage itself is a political act. Many questioned why she's never bothered to remarry. They question if it all comes down to money and privilege. What's clear is that Sarah Ferguson's journey from duchess to outcast to comeback figure remains one of the most fascinating and human royal stories of our time. So, did her family have reason to worry? Possibly. Did she make mistakes? Absolutely. But did she also love Andrew in her own way? Let me know your thoughts. Sarah Ferguson may never have been the perfect duchess, but she remains one of the most compelling, unpredictable, flawed, and utterly human. And that perhaps is why her story still captivates us nearly 40 years later.